everyone. Welcome back to our podcast, Very Factual. We're your hosts, Kayla.
And Isabella, in what felt like a really long international break, the Premier League is finally back, and the biggest game of this Premier League match week was when Manchester City took on Liverpool at home during Saturday's early kickoff. The game would finish in a draw as Haaland would score for City in the first half, and Trent Alexander-Arnold would rescue Liverpool a point in the second half. This game, I'm going to be honest with you. I wanted more from this game, but the result is fair. Since it was an early kickoff time, the I've heard many excuses about the early kickoff cuz Liverpool have had the most early kickoffs. They've have had almost two times the amount of what other teams have, and since it is international break, they don't have as much time to prepare, and I don't think we saw the best of the two teams because of how early it was. I don't want to use that as a full-on excuse because I think both of the teams are really good, but I feel like if they would play on a Sunday, then we maybe would have seen something a little bit better, but I think it shows how tight the top of the table really is. But Liverpool, I think they really kept their shape. They played their game and they didn't change for City because a lot of teams that play Manchester City, they kind of adapt to City's qualities and then City run them over. And they really didn't fall into that trap, and they did not give City much at all. And I actually think Liverpool looked extremely poor in the first half. I thought City were going to take them apart. I thought City were going to run them over. I thought City were going to have like four goals. Just they couldn't get the ball, Liverpool. And something a player that I found that was absolutely horrendous the whole game, Kayla, I don't know if you agree with me, but it was Allison, Liverpool's goalkeeper. So many mistakes. He did not look comfortable. He got lucky so many times,
hmm
especially there was this there was a second goal City could have gotten, but it was taken off because Akanji had his hands on Allison, but the referees came out and said after that the goal should have stood, and I think he just got lucky this whole game, Kayla.
I agree with you. And like you said before, teams usually adapt to how City plays, and Liverpool didn't, which I like to see. And like you said, the goalkeeper, he seemed so uncomfortable during the game. He seemed like he didn't know what to do with himself. He was just getting really lucky with all the shots. And I did expect more from this game. But like you said, it might be or might not be an excuse, but it was an early game and they could have had maybe it could have been a better game if they maybe had a little bit more time to prepare.
Yeah, and back to Allison, I think he just looked so bad with his feet. Like,
hmm
no one on Liverpool side, especially the defense, they did not want to pass back to him because they had no idea what would happen. And I have literally no idea why this was because I think Allison he's probably my favorite goalkeeper in the world. And I was just so shocked to see how bad he was. And City, I will say this about City. I think last episode I was praising them on how they could literally win a treble again, but I'm going to be honest, it could be international break, but City looked really tired. And the thing about Pep is that he barely makes changes to his side, and if he does, it's like a player or two. And I just I feel like there's the the depth on their bench in this game. It wasn't that deep because City usually have a really stacked bench, but it did not look that deep to me. And I feel like a lot of players, since they were so tired, they disappeared and they let Liverpool climb back in. And I don't want to say I don't know if it's a concern. Do you think it is?
I mean, I don't see it as a concern. I think it might have something to do with international break because they are away from each other for a whole week. But like you said, they did look pretty tired. I feel like Pep needs to kind of reconsider some games. Against Liverpool, I understand keeping his like really strong lineup, but maybe if it's
Mm-hmm.
like a quote unquote easier game, he might want to give a little rest to those players because they did seem a little bit more tired than usual. Could just be the international break, yes, but it would look promising earlier with the treble, but now I'm not so sure if they keep up like this.
Yeah, I feel like the international break has to almost play a part into it because I feel like if this game was played like next week or maybe even 2 weeks from now, I feel like we would have saw something more from City and Liverpool, and I think the City players just let Liverpool climb back in. And something that I really enjoyed watching in this game was Trent Alexander Trent Alexander-Arnold's matchup against Jeremy Doku. I think we both know that Trent is not a good defender. um, and he is definitely not as fast as Doku, and I was just like really looking forward to that. But something that I really did like in this game is that Trent wasn't left alone to uh take on Doku. Dominic Szoboszlai and Mohamed Salah also like helped him out a bit, which I really loved. Um and I don't think Liverpool looked amazing either. I think the defense looked great for both sides, but their forward lines were just missing something almost. Like Trent
Mhm.
Alexander-Arnold had to score a goal. Their defense was so solid. I thoroughly enjoyed that, but I feel like I wanted to see more goals from this game. I think the game I said this earlier. I said the game was poor, but I think it shows how close those top teams are.
Yeah, like you said, how close the top teams are, and I am happy to see the teamwork that they did with Trent, so he didn't have to take on Jeremy Doku
Mhm.
alone. That was really nice to see because it just him, it would have been much more difficult.
Yeah.
But like you said, they need that forward little push, but it could have
Mhm.
just been the international break, like we've been saying. That definitely takes a toll on the teams.
A team that does not look like they're close to the top of the table is Chelsea. We thought Chelsea were picking up form, but they suffered a very shocking 4-1 loss to Newcastle at St. James's Park. Alexander Isak would come back from injury in this game and made his first start, and he scored the first goal. Raheem Sterling would then tie it up 10 minutes later, making it level at the break. Jamal Lascelles would put the Magpies in front in the 60th minute, and then 1 minute later, a mistake from Thiago Silva led to Joe Linton, making it 3-1. Reece James would then receive his second yellow card, resulting in a sending off, and to finish off the very disappointing game, Anthony Gordon would make it 4-1. I am so sad, so
I mean,
disappointed.
Chelsea with their ups and downs, man. I mean, okay, I'm for the 61st minute goal, I people are saying that it was Thiago Silva's fault, and yes, he did. It was his fault, but I'm not
Mhm.
blaming him entirely for the game because he's an amazing player. He's definitely one of the best that Chelsea has seen. So people keep on targeting him, and I'm kind of like, this is the one time that I'm defending Chelsea in that sense because he is amazing and he doesn't deserve some of the backlash that he's getting. But I mean, 4-1, I don't I kind of expected it a little bit, and I know that I texted you. I'm like, all I see are ups and downs, and you
Yeah.
you said something about the international break, and yes, of course, international break takes a big toll on the teams, but you can only blame it so much. With Chelsea, it's like such a constant up and down. It's like a flow with them.
I think the international break, I think it definitely hindered their run of form.
Yes.
Because I feel like if they didn't have this week off, then they could have kept at it. They would have had that intensity still. They were definitely getting better. And that is clear and obvious to anyone. Even if you hate Chelsea, you have to say that they were getting better. Like, it's a straight up
They
fact.
were on the up a little bit. They were.
Yeah, and like now there's no international breaks until next year, which I love because they put in these stupid international breaks everywhere. They're so useless. Half of the games are friendlies. So now I feel like they have time to regroup for like the
Mhm.
rest of the year until the next international break, but I'm not gonna take anything away from Newcastle because they are a really good side, and we saw that last season and continuing this season. St. James's Park is such an intimidating stadium, so I feel like that also could have been one of the reasons for the loss. But okay, enough with the excuses. I'm just gonna kind of like get down to what I actually saw. I was actually very happy with the first half. I was very positive. They got into it. They looked great. I was actually like, "Oh my gosh." I think there could be something here because it looked so positive. I think, Newcastle got the first goal, but then Raheem Sterling tied it up, and I wasn't worried. I was like, kind of settled down. But second half, they pulled a Manchester United. They capitulated. One thing went wrong. It was just horrible. They were soft. They were so half-hearted and everything. And Pochettino literally said after in his press conference, because he wasn't on the sidelines because he was suspended, so he was up in like a box watching a game. He said that they need to show more character. And I cannot agree with him more. I think
Mhm.
just that second half, they came out a new side. It wasn't like the Chelsea I saw in the City game. It wasn't the Chelsea I saw during the Arsenal game. It wasn't that Chelsea. And you said that you're not going to blame Thiago Silva. I don't want to blame him entirely either, but I feel like he kind of killed the game off. You cannot make those mistakes when you're 39 years old. You played for PSG, AC Milan. You're so experienced. He's the most experienced player at Chelsea. You cannot do that.
No, for sure. I agree with you with that. It was the game definitely kind of died down. Chelsea kind of gave up after that goal because it was two right in a row,
Mhm.
and it was one of their own players' fault because of that. But still, like he's an amazing player, so you can't blame him too much. Yeah, he's 39. He shouldn't have made that mistake.
Yeah.
But still, some things people are saying, like people make mistakes during the game. Even if that didn't happen, Chelsea still would have lost. So, I mean, like you said, Chelsea though, they were playing actually kind of good in the first half. I was a little
Mhm.
surprised, but then they just kind of let it go downhill. It was like two different faces when they went on for the first half and then second half. It was two completely different teams. And it was, I mean, I kind of liked it because I did not want Chelsea to win.
Yeah, I
But
bet.
putting that aside, I kind of wanted to see a little bit more from Chelsea.
Mhm.
Seeing how they played against City and stuff. You know that they have it in them. They didn't do it, you know?
Yeah, I don't think they didn't look disciplined in this game at all. There were so many stupid challenges made, like the Reece James one. So many useless yellow cards given out. Like Kukurea, he said something
Mhm.
to the referee and the referee carded him. Like, just shut up and play the game. We looked very average in this game. I want to say the
Yeah.
second half. The second half. Let's just focus on the second half. And
Yeah.
Newcastle just took us apart. Because first half we were challenging. We actually looked pretty good. Second half came, we're done. Like it was horrible. They Newcastle bossed us around and they made such better decisions. They wanted to score and we didn't anymore. And that's a problem with us cuz we do have a problem getting those goals. They were coming a little bit in the City game, but it's like when one thing goes wrong now, I feel like we just don't want to score anymore. And this is something that is my problem though. This is just something that bugs me. It's crazy how much money we spent, right? We spent like £1 billion and we end up with the mid table side.
Mhm.
That is like, how much money do you need to spend?
Like, they spent so much money on so many players and, like, upgrades and everything, but they're not using it to their advantage, and, back to what you said about the game in the second half, they gave up really easily, like you said, and they played Newcastle's game. They gave up, they were kinda
Mm-hmm.
like once it was, 3-1, they were kind of like, "Okay, is this game over yet? Is it can I
Yeah.
go home?" They did not wanna be there, they didn't even try. They just ended up playing whatever Newcastle wanted to do. They were just following them around at that point,
Mm-hmm.
and they just gave up, and with the players, with all the money that they spent, they're just not using it to their advantage. They didn't buy the players that they needed, and
No.
it's a little sad to see because Chelsea is better than like a mid-table team, but that's just who they are right now.
Yeah, it's like the recruitment is horrible.
Mhm.
Todd Bowley and all of his little American guys know nothing about the sport. They're just like these baseball dudes that sit and own the Dodgers, right? So you £1 billion and you buy a bunch of kids that we're not gonna see for like 5 years. We need now. We need like results now. And I think the only positive thing is that we are all waiting for Christopher Nkunku to come back from injury, and there is so much expectation on him now. It is crazy how much pressure
Mhm.
this guy has on him because everyone thinks he's going to be the guy that scores goals because Nicholas Jackson, he's not the guy. He can't score goals. He's unexperienced. And Christopher Nkunku, if he doesn't come back and start off like right away, then we're done. I'm still backing Pochettino though, because I think he is the right guy, and we do look better than last season. That is a fact. It's just I'm was really shocked at this result and how quickly it turned for us.
I will give you that Chelsea does look much better than they do last season. I just hope maybe there will be an upside
Mhm.
soon for them. I mean, secretly I don't because I don't like Chelsea, but just for the club, hope that they do kind of have an up because you know that they can. It's
Yes.
just I feel like they're not pushing themselves far enough. They're kind of giving up too quickly. They're not urging themselves, pushing themselves to go further. They're just kind of giving up and accepting the fact that they're mid-table this year when they aren't. They shouldn't be. Arsenal traveled to Brentford to take on the Bees and barely win just 0-1 with the only goal being scored in the 89th minute by Kai Havertz. He finally contributed something to a game other than taking up just space on the field. Bukayo Saka did assist it, and both of them worked really well together to get this win, which now puts Arsenal in first in the Premier League table. Going into this game, I expected a little more from Arsenal, not a last minute win, literally a last minute win, but Brentford did play much better than I expected. However, at the end, they just couldn't hold their ground, and Arsenal ended up scoring that goal. And I'm happy for Arsenal, though they do seem to be finding their footing more than as the season goes on because they did start off a little rocky, and now I'm seeing the Arsenal that they ended with last season. But during the game, Brentford, they were putting up a fight for most of the game. In Arsenal, they were not playing at all how well I expected them to. I expected this to be an easy win for Arsenal, an easy, okay, let's just go win and come back with those 3 points. But the fact that they just barely won 0-1 is a little bit shocking to me.
Yeah, I think it was a really boring game. I
Mhm.
had no interest in it at all. But the thing you have to take away from this is they got 3 points. They are top of the table now. 1 point, 1 point above City, but they still are. They probably I don't think they were deserving of the win, but they were effective in how they played, and I feel like they matured because I feel like if they would have played like this last season, I think they would have lost.
Mhm.
So it's good to see how they grew as a team, and something that is just really crazy to me is how many problems that they've had so far this season, but they are still top of the table.
Yep.
Um like they've had the Kai Havertz incident, a bunch of players are out of form, a bunch of them can't score. They've had the goalkeeper scenario here, which
Yes.
I might mention a little bit later. I think Liverpool personally, this might just be my Liverpool bias coming through, but I think they still are City's biggest challengers. But Arsenal haven't been playing well and they're still in the title race, which is something that you have to keep an eye on because
Mhm.
like they might come from nowhere. I think it's going to be really hard for Arsenal to repeat their form from last season, but so far they look to be doing it, but they're not as good as they were last season at all.
They're slowly getting their footing back, like I said, from last season, but they're not there yet, and I feel like by the end of the season, they will be back there, which is like I mean, it's not enough to be there at the end of the season, but,
Mhm.
they're slowly building back, and the fact that they're still top of the table, even though they've been kinda, like, a little bit off this season says a lot about them because they are full of young players, and I am so surprised that Kai Havertz got a goal, finally,
Mhm.
but it was assisted by Bukayo Saka. He's amazing. We know how amazing he is. So I like to give him most of the credit for this. Maybe it's just my bias against him, but it's a little surprising. And you mentioned goalkeepers. Arsenal started Aaron Ramsdale.
Mhm.
this game, which in my opinion, I don't hate him. I actually like Ramsdale, but you can't keep switching up the goalies on your own players. Like it was just David Raya and now it's Ramsdale again. If I was a defender there, I'd be a little mad because you want to get used to your goalie. You want to build with
Yeah.
him on the field. And I feel like that constant switch might have also affected Arsenal's play a little bit. Not entirely, but a little bit. And I mean, I'm happy to see Ramsdale there again, but you can't just blame it on the goalie switches, you know?
The only reason Arteta started Ramsdale is because Raya was unavailable for this game. I forgot the reason
Yeah,
why, but he wasn't available, but he had a really hard time in goal.
he
I'm gonna
did.
be honest with you, and I love Aaron Ramsdale. There was this point, I'm pretty sure it was the first half. Zinchenko cleared it off the line for him. He came out, the ball went over him. I was like, oh my gosh, this is this is maybe why. But even if he was good in the game, I feel like Arteta has his mind made up. And if even though we hate it, Raya is the guy. As bad as I don't want to come to terms with it, he is. And I kind of feel bad for Aaron Ramsdale making this mistake because I know how hard he wants to try and be his best, but it's not working out for him. And I'm just kind of disappointed in that.
I feel like that time away from being in the game, being replaced by Raya definitely affected him a little bit, and you know
Mm-hmm.
he really wants to play, he definitely was a fan favorite at Arsenal, but now I just feel like since he hasn't played on the pitch for so long, and then now all of a sudden he's there playing again, and yes, Raya was unavailable, that's why he was there, but still, I that's not who he is as a goalkeeper, and I just hope that like no one loses a lot of faith in him because you know he was trying, he just hasn't played in a while. He's because he's being
Yeah.
replaced by Raya, and that's just kind of how it works. Because we've mentioned before there is a lot of competition in goalkeeping,
Mm-hmm.
but it's how it works, I guess. You can't really blame a lot of it on him, but he was out of form compared to how he normally is.
Yeah, another aspect of Arsenal's team that does look to be out of form, I think, is their front line. And this
Mhm.
might be me, but I feel like I feel like last season Arsenal's front line and even the beginning of this season, they that forward line was just scoring goals. Martinelli looks completely invisible to me. I have no idea where he went. He's on the field, but like I don't see him producing anything. I feel like Saka, since he's been overplayed, and that is fact.
Mhm.
How old is he? Like 22 years old. He, the amount of games that he plays is insane. Like, he is still a young player, and he's playing the amount of games that like a a 30-year-old should play.
Yeah. And
Jesus,
the amount sorry.
no, go ahead.
But the amount that he contributes at such a young age is just crazy
Yeah,
because, I mean, clearly he's out there for a reason, just he is playing a lot, and I just don't wanna see him burn out too quick, or
yeah,
maybe, like, slowly start to slack a little bit because he will get exhausted eventually.
oh
I
yeah,
just hope that doesn't affect him too much.
yeah. I think Jesus has also been injured, so that
Mhm.
is. But I feel like I've heard a lot of people say that they Jesus missing Jesus is a real problem for Arsenal, but I don't see it. I haven't seen one time that they struggled without him because I feel like he hasn't had that big of an impact. They have Eddie and Nketiah as like a backup, but
Mhm.
he's also quite inconsistent sometimes, even though I prefer him. But to the wingers, right? They have no depth to replace the wingers. Who's going to replace Saka when he's injured? You know what I mean? They have no one in those
Exactly.
positions, which is really concerning because that's maybe why Arteta just plays them over and over again. But I think it'll catch up to them eventually.
Yeah, I agree. Like you said, there's no depth in the wingers, so he's just gonna keep playing them. And then what happens if Saka gets injured? You can't really put Nketiah there, and he's already on the field. But you're gonna put like
Mm
Kai Havertz, he's out there. He just takes up space on the field too. He
hmm.
doesn't have yeah, he doesn't have that depth in his forward lineup like he needs. And hopefully he'll make a little change the next time there's a transfer. But I mean, you never know. Hopefully hopefully Arsenal can pick it up and, uh, what's his name? Bukayo Saka doesn't fall too quickly, you know?
Yeah, and speaking of Kai Havertz, he got the winning goal.
Mhm.
He got the winner. Not just a goal, the winner. And I feel like and it was an actual goal this time, not like
Yep.
his penalty, which should build up his confidence because he needs it. He
Yes.
needs it so bad. He needs to prove all those haters wrong. I just he was a former Chelsea player. It's just like I kind of feel bad because I know he
Mhm.
hasn't been the same for even at Chelsea, he wasn't like amazing. But I feel like this goal will definitely almost help him a little bit, and that's what he really needs.
Yeah, I agree. Hopefully that gives him that little confidence boost. And speaking of confidence boosters, Aston Villa definitely got one this weekend. Spurs continue their slacking form with a 2-1 loss against Aston Villa. Spurs open up scoring in the 22nd minute, giving us hope until added time at the end of the first half when Pau Torres swoops in, starting starting the second half as an equalizer. Halfway through second half, Ollie Watkins gave Villa the lead they needed to beat Spurs and take 3 points to the table. Overall, Spurs played better. They had more possession, more shots, more touches. Just at the end of the day, they couldn't get those shots in, and that's honestly what it comes down to. And I know Spurs put up a good fight, and this was a very anticipated game this match week, but I just expected more from Spurs seeing how well they can play and seeing what they really are capable of this season. They started off amazing, and now they're just kind of going downhill. And I know that they're kind of a fresh to being at the top of the table again, but they just keep on going downhill, and I wanna see that little uphill again soon because I know that they can do it. You've seen what they're capable of, just they aren't getting there just yet, you know?
You know the reason why they're going downhill, right?
I don't wanna admit it though.
It's because they don't have depth. 10
Yeah.
of their starters, like 10 really big players for them, were absent in this game. Romero, this is just a few of them. Romero was suspended. Van de Ven is still injured. Basuma was suspended. Madison is injured. And if you looked at, okay, so I'm only saying, like, looking at this from like a highlights point of view because I only watched the highlights. When they were reading off the team sheet and you looked at their bench, it was horrible. There was
There was
no
no one to
one,
replace.
literally no one, and that's the problem they have. I think they we talked about this a few times, and I've said it that when a few of these players get injured, it's not going to work out for them. And I think we've saw it like really clear now that it's not going to work if these players get injured.
And I just hope that, like I previously said with Arsenal, that Spurs takes the next transfer window when there is
Mhm.
one to bring in some players to add depth to them because, for example, if Son gets injured, it's over for Spurs. Like you know that they have great players. They just don't have like backup great players. They don't have
Yeah.
that depth in their squad, and it's very hard for me to say because I love Spurs right now. They're my second favorite, but it's just you know that they're capable of more, they just can't bring themselves to that point.
Yeah, the next transfer window is in January, so,
Mhm.
hopefully they have some people lined up. I'm gonna say, in the beginning minutes of this game, they really pressed. It
Yeah.
was crazy. They were always at Villa's net. Um, like the first half, I think they just looked amazing overall, and I think like since they had the absent players that they struggle, and I feel like they almost went back to the old Spurs where they
Yeah.
were having a tough time, then they just let Villa climb back in and win the game. But I will say this is a positive for Spurs. Giovanni Lo Celso's goal was
Mhm.
beautiful. It
It
fell
was.
directly onto his foot off a deflection. He just smashed it in the net, like right outside the box. That was beautiful.
You
There was
know they have sorry, but you know
no,
they have the
yeah.
players to get those goals, they just are not using them to their advantage, they aren't training them all together to work together, they
Mhm.
just kind of have that starting lineup, and then, like, the backups they pray they don't have to use, you know?
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Something that there were so many disallowed goals in this game, and
Mhm.
these teams looked very close. Like, it could have been 4-4. It
It was
literally could have been 4-4.
it was a crazy close game, and I liked seeing how much of a challenge that both teams put up against each other.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, Aston Villa just really they finished their shots more. They took their opportunities quicker, and they had the players. They had the depth in their squad. They had everything they needed to win this game.
Yeah.
Just the amount of disallowed goals too. I feel like that also discouraged both of the teams a little bit because they're kind of like, oh, what now? This goal didn't count.
Mhm. I think Villa are a really good side. Unai Emery
Yes.
really transformed the team into, like, really real competitors. Like, they are in 4th. Villa are in 4th.
Yep.
Um, and they've had some little bumps in the road recently, and we kind of saw that in the first half. I feel like Spurs really took it over. Ollie Watkins, though, one of the best players of the season. Amazing. He is so underrated. His goal was incredible. He had such little space and was able to keep calm, controlled the ball. He was so fast and swift and just like he was composed, and he
Mhm.
really deserved that goal. The game, I said, it looked quite even, and both teams were continually pressing each other's nets. Son had a chance to tie the game up, and he was disallowed a goal for offside for the third time. A hat trick
Mhm.
of disallowed goals. So, but I'm kind of surprised on almost how good Spurs did without their players, but it's like, they were missing something. This
They
was
were
not the
definitely
Spurs that we knew
yeah.
from the beginning of the season.
They were definitely missing a few of their players, the little push that they needed. They were playing I'll agree with you, they were playing better than I thought that they would, missing those players, but they still did not have that little push, and Villa is definitely 10 times better than they were last season. They're on the up,
Mhm.
they're, an overachieving team this season.
Mhm.
They're doing really well this season. They're in what, 4th, you said?
Yes.
I just think it's pretty surprising seeing them there. I mean, I thought they would be pretty well, but seeing them in 4th is just crazy to me. I'm pretty happy for them. They were working hard for it, and they got there. Manchester United travels to Goodison Park to take on Everton and win 3-0. United opens the scoring early in the game in the 3rd minute and keeps the score 1-0 until early in the second half until United gets rewarded a penalty and Rashford steps up to make the score 2-0. United kept their lead and in the 75th minute Anthony Martial scored the final goal of the match to make it 3-0, hopefully giving United that confidence boost that they need. Everton did really put up a fight. The possession was literally 50-50 and Everton had, get this, 24 shots on United, but only 6 of them were on target. United got lucky with this and how many goals that they were able to score. And speaking of goals, I just wanted to go back to United's first goal in the 3rd minute by Alejandro Garnacho. I mean, an absolutely beautiful goal. He's only like what, 19, and
Yeah.
scored a stunning bicycle kick against Everton very early in the game. It was just phenomenal to see someone this young doing a skill like that, scoring the opening goal of the game. It was just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah, Garnacho's goal is so far the goal of the season for me, and I feel like
Yeah,
it will be. I feel like nothing will top that after I saw that. You know what
it
I
was
mean?
just amazing.
It was just literally so beautiful. It's like Ronaldo-esque. And you know something? It reminds me of that Wayne Rooney goal versus City. It was like a literal copy and paste.
He
It
was
was
so sorry.
beautiful.
He was just so confident in this, like, his
Mhm.
form and everything. He was just confident and you knew. And in the Premier like in the Premier League app, we saw Bruno Fernandes, he was voted man of the match, but for me, it was Garnacho. He had so much confidence in that kick. He knew it was gonna go in. He knew what he was doing. It was absolutely beautiful.
It was just like the fact that he pulls that off just like
I know,
as a
at such a young
19-year-old.
age.
It's
Yep.
and something that I've said, I don't know, I feel like I've said it. I think Garnacho is the only one that plays with heart so far
Mhm.
for United, and he's the only one playing for the club because he loves the badge. It's a really big club, and he wants to represent it well. And that was literally, I am speechless. I'm just like I'm happy for him. He's probably like my favorite United player probably because of he wants to play the game. He's not a little baby that goes whining on the field. Like he plays the game, and I think this is like the start of Alejandro Garnacho.
Yeah, he knows what it means to wear the badge of Manchester United. He knows how much it means. And the other players, yes, they're there, they know that they're good, but they don't know how good the club is that they're playing for. They're almost as if
Mhm.
like disgracing them. Like
Mhm.
yes, United won this game by like, not a landslide, but they won 3-0. It was like a
Mhm.
really good game. But Everton put up such a good fight, and it was they were playing Everton. It's kind of, like, expected they should have won like this, but the fact that they still allowed them to have 24 shots, and they still allowed them
Mhm.
to kind of possess the game half the time, it's just a little shocking, a little disappointing to see in a club like Manchester United, but you can't blame them too much, they still won 3-0, they still got those points. I mean, it's really what you can only ask for during the game.
I will say I thought Everton would almost get something out of this game because
Yep.
they've have been so good this season, and they've recently had the 10-point deduction which takes them down to 19th. So and every Everton fan was mad at this because they're saying how this is like a totally different topic, but I'm just going to like quickly kind of recap this. They're saying how Manchester City should be checked cuz okay, Everton were deducted the 10 points because they breached financial fair play rules, and Everton are saying that they're not the only ones. City also, Chelsea also. So I really thought we were gonna see just some fight. I mean, we did. Don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, but I thought we were gonna see like some goals from Everton. The game it was statistically even. The possession was literally you said 50-50. Everton did. I feel like they had the edge in all the stats, just barely. Except for the shots that 24
Yeah.
shots, crazy. I just United made the most of their opportunities and Everton didn't, and I feel like that's the biggest thing. Everton had chances where they literally could have leveled or went ahead. They Everton could have won the game. There's no reason that they shouldn't. United are now in top 6 and they need to continue to climb higher. And something crazy that I just noticed is that United are only 4 points off of third place.
Yep. The
That
top of the table points so close to each other. It's such a
yes.
it's always constantly moving. You cannot just say someone's stuck in one place. Those top like 6 or 7
Mhm.
constantly moving around because of how close the points are. Because I feel like all teams, honestly, this season, they all have been having their ups and downs. There's no team that's been pretty steady with how much won, how many wins, how many
Yeah.
losses. So I feel like that's what causes all those point differences. And United, the only reason they're up there is because they've been getting kind of lucky. Like that, yes, they played well against Everton, but we've mentioned this before. It's about finishing your shots, and yeah, United did that, but that's all that they've been doing. There's no more, there's nothing else to
Yeah.
United recently. They're just kind of okay, score the goal, keep going, and they're getting lucky with their goal scores. Except for Garnacho's, his was amazing. I can't get over how
Yeah.
well that one was.
At least they did not get any 90-minute goals this time.
Yes, they didn't. They got a little. They stepped a little bit back from that.
Yeah, hopefully this could boost their confidence. It really should, especially after
Mhm.
the Garnacho goal. They just need to stay together and continue performing like this because they need to like dominate more. They need to run
Mhm.
over these kinds of teams because I feel like if United stay together and somehow, pick it back up, then I feel like they could definitely be like top 3.
I feel like United is one of those teams where like with City also, you play City's game, you play
Mhm.
United's game, like you play their game. You don't kind of work together. It's kind of a 50-50 thing. When it's a game like this, Everton versus United, you would expect Everton to be playing United's game. United is dominating it. And recently they just aren't doing that. And it's kind of sad to see, but I hope that this is a good confidence booster for them because 3-0 is a pretty good score line, and it's not like they scored in the 90th minute like you mentioned. They had that little up the entire game.
Yeah.
So hopefully that just gives them that boost that they need to continue playing that little control of the game aspect.
Yeah, and if they don't pick it back up, especially after a win like this, then they're done. Like, I don't even know what to say about them anymore.
We've mentioned this before so many times, and I mentioned it already, but they're just getting lucky and they're going to continue to get lucky. And yeah, I'm kind of happy that I'm actually really happy that they're up there. But
Mhm.
I know that they're just up there because not because of their skills, but because of just like the teams that they're playing, like ups and downs of the
Yeah.
other teams. It's not really them, it's the other team.
Mhm. And we'll see how they do next weekend against
Hmm.
Newcastle. Against Newcastle. That is going to be a fun one right there.
They're
So excited.
honestly, they're supposed to be pretty even, stats and everything. And last season they were also very even, but we see they're not the same at all like they were last season. So we'll see. It's a very exciting game.
Yeah, I think Newcastle will win though. Like
Hmm.
I
I think so
have
too.
just like this I feel like Newcastle's a very strong side, especially in the Premier League when they're playing teams that they're kind of they know because the Champions League sides that they're playing, they don't really know them,
Yeah.
but I think Newcastle are going to take that win. Sorry.
I I hate to agree, but I do because like we said, United doesn't have that confidence, and Newcastle they do when they're playing against the team that they know, like you just said. So I feel like it's going to be a closer game. Well, I hope it's going to be a closer game, but I feel like Newcastle will get that little bit of a push and end up
Yeah.
winning.
Yeah, that's it.
So, yep, that's all we have for you guys for this week. So, thank you everyone for listening. Please join us next week and don't forget to follow our Instagram and YouTube at Very Factual Podcast.